now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. DC Comics recently announced that Joelle Jones' critically acclaimed Wonder Girl series would be ending early with the 7th issue. Now, your Yara Flor Wonder Girl, which was based in Brazilian mythology, and the title had some interesting ideas as related to a Brazilian Amazon. Unfortunately, the title was connected to Dan Didio's attempt to create a new DC universe called 5G, and that was the first of the setbacks as related to the character and the title. Now, your Dan Didio had hoped to take the Yara Flor character and make her into a big commercial property before she had even had her first issue published. There were plans to make a Yara Flor Wonder Girl TV series on the CW. Unfortunately, the whole 5G concept wound up upsetting a lot of executives at Warner Brothers, and this whole 5G event was the thing that led to the termination of Dan Didio and many other employees at DC Comics. And the Wonder Girl character of Yara Flor wound up in limbo as the 5G event was canceled and then repackaged as DC's Future State. And as the character was introduced in DC's Future State, readers did like the character and they did like the premise of the character. Unfortunately, there were problems with the execution of the overall concept. Now, Joelle Jones did put together some absolutely fantastic art on the Yara Flor Wonder Girl character, and she did a great job of delving into the Brazilian mythology and Brazilian lore as creating a tribe of Brazilian Amazons. Unfortunately, one of the problems with the Yara Flor Wonder Girl was not the character or the concept, but it was the overall execution, because the overall execution made it where many readers could not really get to know this character to the point where they could care about this character. Now, the Yara Flor character was a very likable character, a very friendly character. Unfortunately, her character suffered from something that I've seen many heroines suffer from whenever writers launch their books, and that is there is no real antagonist presented to them. Now, in order for a superhero comic to effectively grab the audience, you have to develop a strong antagonist, because villains drive the story. Now, in superhero comics, you need a villain because a villain does several things. One, a villain drives the conflict in the story, and 2, a villain makes us care about the hero, and 3, a villain gives a hero some sort of challenge to overcome. Now, when I was writing the Isis character, I oftentimes thought about the villain as related to her stories, because I understood that without a good antagonist for Isis to face, she would not have any sort of challenge to overcome, and the reader would not be engaged with the character. So that's why I would go out here and develop villains like Queen Amari in Amari's Revenge, or people like your Rahima Sanders from The Beauty Myth and Isis, Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, who became the Cyber Goddess and Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, or villains like Golden Shine, because I understood how important a bad guy is, and your Yara Flor desperately needed an antagonist to drive her story. And her story, again, was very interesting, but there was no bad guy for us to root for her to fight against. A lot of her stories were about really a lot of world building, and world building has its place in storytelling, but when there's too much world building, there's no way for us to really get to know this character, get to know their power set, and get to know how they would use their powers in a creative fashion that makes them unique and distinct. And when you're doing superhero comics, you really want to go out here and make sure that your character is out here using their powers in a creative way that makes them unique and distinct. Yes, your Yara Flor had a great looking costume and a great voice, but her use of these magic bolo lasso was not anything special. I mean, there was no difference between her and Cassie Sandsmark or Donna Troy. And what happened with her character is that while she had a good voice and a good personality, she wasn't doing anything special with those powers of hers that showed us how creative or resourceful she could be, or how different she would use her powers as compared to Diana, Donna, or Cassie. So that was one of the things that really impeded the character's ability to grow, that lack of a great villain, that lack of an ability to go out here and use your powers in a unique way, and that ability to really show us that this character was different than Diana, Donna, or Cassie outside of her personality, her voice, and her costume. I mean, the visual was very nice as related to Yara Flor, but there were problems with her character and her character development. And the over focus on world building was really, as I saw it, a way to overcompensate for the lack of an antagonist, because you really needed that bad guy to really make this book pop. Yes, this book had the elements for success, but it lacked the main element that you need, and that is a good, strong heel. And you need a good, strong heel because that heel is going to really bring out the best in the character. And when you're writing heroines, you really want to bring out that relationship between the heroine and her rogues, because the rogues, they're the people who are going to show us where the character's internal characteristics and traits are that define them as a hero. So when you have a heroine, you really want to focus on that relationship between her and her arch enemy, and you also want to focus on this, what motivates them to want to beat that person, because when you're writing heroines, again, it's all about that relationship between the heroine and her villains, and we really didn't get to see that with Yara Flor, and that really prevented the character from actualizing her potential. And that was one of the big problems with the Yara Flor Wonder Girl series, in addition to being tied to DC's 5G and Dan Didio's overly ambitious plans. I mean, he practically was planning this character being in a CW series without ever working on the substance and foundations of the character. And Joelle Jones really didn't develop enough of the structures as related to the character, because she was focused a little bit too much on world building. And I know from experience that you really can't focus so much on world building. Yes, you're going to build the world, but you have to build the relationships between the characters, and you have to go out here and build up the rogues gallery, because if you don't have a good rogues gallery, you're not going to have good conflicts. And if you don't have good conflicts that showcase the hero using their powers and abilities in creative ways, then you're not going to get the reader to care about this character. They may be the most likable person as related to comics, but the whole thing is that if without that villain and without that reason to care, people don't have an incentive to go out here and drop down $5 for a copy of that comic, because they don't see any reason to see the hero overcoming the odds. And as somebody who read 6 of these issues of Wonder Girl, it was a very, again, entertaining series, and it had a lot of great fascinating concepts, but it really lacked that big heel that could just make you say, oh, this character is really taking on a major bad guy, and she also really lacked a good solid mission. That's another big problem with what was with this Wonder Girl character, is that she didn't have a distinct mission. Yes, she was part of the Brazilian mythology, but she didn't have a mission that made her distinct from any other character. Now, when I look at a character like a Tim Drake, his mission as Robin was different than that of Jason Todd's or Dick Grayson's, and that's what made his character distinct. Was he wanted to learn how to become a detective like Batman and eventually possibly take over the Batman role eventually, whereas Jason Todd was a boy who had a mission as related to helping Bruce Wayne get past the Dick Grayson leaving and becoming his own man, and Dick Grayson had a mission as related to becoming Robin in order to get justice as related to the murder of his parents, and he wanted to be mentored by Bruce Wayne. So each character had a mission, but Yara Flor really did not have a mission. And when you're writing heroes, your heroes have to have a mission for why they want to be a hero and what motivates them to be a hero. They just can't be, oh, I find out I've got these powers all of a sudden. No, there has to be a mission as related to the character, and that's something I try to do whenever I'm writing a character like in Isis, where she's the goddess next door and she wants to help out black girls, or she wants to help out people that are in need by going where she's needed, or the Eastdeem character, where she's trying to go out here and learn more about a relationship with God and trying to help out John Haynes, or with Matilda Crowley character on her journey into the goth subculture, where she wanted to learn how to not to break free of that whole paradigm as related to the tragic mulatto. Every heroine needs a mission, but Yara Flor didn't have a mission. Yes, she had an ethnicity, but she did not have a mission. And good characters of substance, they have a mission. I mean, think about Spider-Man: great power become with great responsibility, and the loss of Uncle Ben, that motivated him to have his mission to make sure that nobody else's family would suffer like his did, because he lost his uncle due to his own selfishness and his whole greed. Same thing with Bruce Wayne. I mean, what motivates him to stop criminals is him losing his family, and he doesn't want anybody to suffer as a result. And a mission can drive a character, and it can drive a books series. And again, the Wonder Girl series, it struggled because there was no mission in addition to no bad guy and nobody there to play off the Wonder Girl character. I mean, yeah, the book was very promising in the beginning, but the momentum wound up shifting, and that's one of the things that led to it having problems, and that's what led to it struggling to get sales. That and the erratic publishing schedule as related to the book, because it wasn't coming out monthly, it was coming out here and there, and that all these elements really led to the fall of a truly promising book, a book that could have been a big hit for DC, but it wound up failing, and they're trying to soft reboot the character. They see the promise in the character, but the problem is that unless you have really good execution, you're not going to really be able to get this character off the ground to actualize that potential. And that's something many creators really don't think about, because when I was first starting to create characters, I would make the same mistake, and I would focus on the hero, but then I realized that you just can't focus on the hero when you're creating a story, and you can't build the world. Those are elements that are part of the hero's story, but you have to really focus on the core elements like their mission, the antagonist, because the antagonist is essential, and the rogues, because it's the rogues that are going to keep people coming back to buy the book. because every time they see a rogue presenting a challenge, they're going to want to see that character overcome those challenges and also the challenges of their personal life. So I was really disappointed to see DC Comics cancel this book, but I understood why they went out of their way to cancel this book, because it wasn't really generating the sales, and it wasn't generating the sales because the execution just wasn't there completely, because everybody's eyes were on making this character a star instead of developing them a bit more organically. Now, I wonder if Joelle Jones had ever read Batman A Lonely Place of Dying, because that is a blueprint for how you want to introduce a legacy character. The way Tim Drake was introduced into the Batman family really cemented the character as a character who has been popular for over 30 years. They started by introducing him organically by having Dick Grayson give him the seal of approval. And then from there, they then started slowly training the character and then bringing him into the lore. And that's why the character became a fan favorite. They learned from their mistakes with Jason Todd of trying to kind of shoehorn a character in and just replace them. No, they tried to go out here and build this character up organically, nice and slow, and the character became a fan favorite for over 30 years until editorial started messing with the Tim Drake character, because they said they didn't know what to do. But had they done their research on Tim Drake, they would have been known what to do, because Tim Drake wants to be the world's greatest detective, and he wants to carry on in the footsteps of his mentor, Batman, similar to the way Bruce Wayne wanted to take on learning how to be a detective from Harvey Harris many years ago. So if you know your research, you can make a great character. And with this Wonder Girl character, they have a lot of promising elements. And Joelle Jones just needs to go out here and tweak a few things. And she really needs to focus on getting this character out of all of the mythology that she created as related to this world, and get this character into the DC universe. Because this character, if you want this character to really actualize their potential and become a DC staple, you've got to go out here and create this character that shows that she's got distinct powers and distinct abilities and has her own distinct rogues gallery, and also can work organically with other characters in the DC universe. Now, they were trying to do things with Cassie Sandsmark and Artemis in this book, but it just never really came together organically. It just felt disjointed in some ways. But if they had put it where she was a part of the Wonder Woman family early on, and then had her working in the DC universe with other characters early on, the character probably might have caught on. And again, she had the voice, she had the personality, and when I really think about her, she really reminds me of Firestorm in the early 70s. Firestorm in the early 70s was a fantastic character. He had all the elements for success. Unfortunately, his first series got lost in the DC implosion, but DC believed enough in the character that they went out here and put him in the Justice League of America, where he continued to make appearances. They put him in the Flash book, and then around the early 80s, they finally gave him his own book, and that's when the character really became the smash hit hero that he actually and started to actualize his potential. And that's what happens when you have a publisher who believes in a character, and I believe that this character, with the right types, with the right storytelling, and a good editor, could be a breakout character for the DC universe, and possibly the first breakout hero in 30 years. Because if DC had an editorial with a good vision, they would have been able to build this character up and get this character on the right track. And there's still time to get this character on the right track, but Joelle Jones needs guidance and leadership from somebody with a good background in superhero comics, and somebody who knows about selling superhero comics. Because this book, while it had, again, promise, it wasn't really focusing on selling the book. It was just focusing on telling the story. And in comics, you have to focus on selling, and because when you sell, what you want to do is, again, create challenges for your hero to overcome, because when you create those challenges, the reader comes back for more titles, and they come back for the next issue because they want to see how this character is going to deal with things in their personal life and things as related to being a hero. Now, if you want to pick up some of my books featuring black heroines, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, and books like A Thetas and A Recipe for Success, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find those books on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more comic-related videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, the Beauty Myth. Learn the beauty secrets of the goddess next door in this action-packed ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, the Beauty Myth at online booksellers everywhere today.